Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished loading another cargo container onto the transport platform. New Geneva Station was always busy, with ships coming and going at all hours. The massive space station served as a trading hub where dozens of alien species came to buy, sell, and make deals. Marcus had worked here for 3 years as a cargo handler. It was not exciting work, but it paid well enough. He lived alone in a small apartment on level 7 and kept to himself most of the time. Other workers knew him as quiet but reliable. He always finished his jobs and never caused trouble. The work shift was almost over when Marcus heard strange sounds coming from the maintenance tunnels. These tunnels ran between the main corridors and were usually empty except for repair crews. The sounds were muffled, but they seemed like someone crying. Marcus hesitated. His supervisor had told all workers to stay in their assigned areas. The maintenance tunnels were off limits unless you had special permission. But the crying sounds continued, and they sounded like a child in distress. He made his decision. Marcus grabbed a small flashlight from his tool belt and walked toward the tunnel entrance. The heavy metal door was slightly open, which was unusual. He slipped inside and followed the narrow passage toward the sounds. The tunnel was dark and filled with pipes and electrical cables. Marcus moved carefully, using his flashlight to see the way. The crying was getting louder now, and he could hear other voices too. These voices were deep and rough, speaking in a language he did not recognize. Marcus turned a corner and stopped. In a wider section of the tunnel, 3 large aliens stood around a small figure huddled on the floor. The aliens were Vorax, a species known for being violent and cruel. Each one was nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. They wore dark clothing and carried energy weapons on their belts. The small figure on the floor was a child. Marcus could see blue-silver skin and large violet eyes filled with fear. This was a Zephyrian child, probably no more than 8 years old in human terms. The little girl was shaking and tears ran down her face. "Tell us where your mother is," one of the Vorax said in broken standard language. His voice was like gravel. "We know she comes to this station. Tell us now or we hurt you more." The child shook her head. "I don't know," she whispered. "Please leave me alone." The largest Vorax raised his hand to strike the child. Marcus did not think about what happened next. He just acted. "Hey," Marcus shouted, stepping into the light. "Leave her alone!" All 3 Vorax turned to look at him. They seemed surprised to see a human in the tunnel. The largest one laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Look, brothers," the Vorax said. "A little human wants to play hero. This should be fun." Marcus felt his heart beating fast, but he did not back down. He moved to stand between the Vorax and the child. "I said leave her alone. She's just a kid." The second Vorax pulled out an energy baton. The weapon hummed with electricity. "You should walk away, human. This is not your business." "You made it my business when you decided to hurt a child," Marcus replied. He kept his voice steady even though he was scared. The Vorax were much bigger and stronger than him, and they had weapons. But he could not walk away and leave the little girl. The largest Vorax stepped forward. "Stupid human. You think you can stop us? We will break every bone in your body." Marcus glanced back at the child. She was staring at him with wide eyes, as if she could not believe someone was trying to help her. That look made his decision final. "Try it," Marcus said. The first blow came fast. The Vorax fist hit Marcus in the stomach and knocked the wind out of him. He doubled over, gasping for air, but stayed on his feet. The second Vorax hit him with the energy baton, sending electric shocks through his body. Marcus fell to his knees but immediately got back up. He had to protect the child. The Vorax seemed surprised that he was still standing. "Tough for a human," the third Vorax said, "but not tough enough." They attacked him together. Fists and batons struck Marcus from all sides. His nose broke with a loud crack. Blood ran down his face and onto his work uniform. His ribs screamed with pain as the aliens kicked him repeatedly, but Marcus refused to fall. Every time they knocked him down, he got back up and placed himself between them and the child. The Vorax grew frustrated with his stubbornness. "Why won't you stay down?" the largest one demanded, breathing hard from the fight. Marcus spat blood and wiped his mouth. "Because she's just a kid," he said simply. "And someone has to protect her." The beating continued. Marcus lost track of how many times they hit him. His vision became blurry and his legs felt weak. But he could hear the child behind him, and that gave him strength to keep going. The Vorax were getting tired too. They had expected the human to give up quickly, But Marcus kept standing up no matter how much they hurt him. His determination was something they had never seen before. "This human is crazy," one of them muttered. Finally, Marcus heard the sound he had been hoping for: running footsteps in the tunnel. Station security had found them. The Vorthax heard it too and looked around nervously. "Security is coming," the largest Vorthax said. "We leave now." "What about the human?" asked another. "Leave him. He will not last much longer anyway." The three aliens quickly gathered their weapons and ran toward another tunnel exit. Within seconds, they had disappeared into the darkness. Marcus felt his legs give out and he collapsed to the floor. Everything hurt and he could taste blood in his mouth. But he had done it. The child was safe. Small hands touched his face gently. The Zephyrian girl knelt beside him, her violet eyes now filled with concern instead of fear. "Thank you," she whispered in perfect standard language. "My name is Lyra. I will never forget what you did for me." Marcus tried to smile, but his face hurt too much. "It's okay, kid. You're safe now." Station security officers arrived a moment later, their lights flooding the tunnel. They called for medical help immediately when they saw Marcus's condition. As the medics worked to stabilize him, Marcus heard one of the security officers talking into his radio. "We need to contact the Zephyrian embassy immediately," the officer said. "The victim is Commander Zarathel's daughter." Marcus barely heard these words before unconsciousness took him. His last thought was relief that the little girl would be reunited with her mother. He had no idea that his simple act of courage had just changed his life forever. The medics carried Marcus away on a stretcher while Lyra watched with tears in her eyes. The security officers tried to comfort her, but she kept staring at the spot where her protector had fallen. In the Zephyrian culture, what Marcus had done had a special name. But Lyra was too young to fully understand the ancient traditions. All she knew was that a brave human had saved her life, and she would never forget his kindness. Marcus slowly opened his eyes and immediately regretted it. Bright lights made his head throb with pain. Everything hurt, from his toes to the top of his skull. He tried to sit up, but gentle hands pushed him back down. "Easy, human," a voice said. "You must rest." Marcus blinked several times until his vision cleared. He was in the station's medical bay, lying on a clean white bed. Machines beeped softly around him, monitoring his vital signs. A medical droid hovered nearby, its sensors scanning his body. But what caught his attention was the figure standing beside his bed. It was the tallest alien he had ever seen up close. The being was clearly female, with the same blue-silver skin as the child he had protected. But where little Lyra had been small and fragile, this woman was powerful and commanding. She wore a dark blue military uniform with silver decorations that marked her as high-ranking. Her violet eyes were like Lyra's but harder, showing years of experience and authority. Her long silver hair was pulled back in a neat style that looked both practical and elegant. "I am Commander Zarathl of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet," she said in perfect standard language. Her voice was deep and clear. "Lyra is my daughter." Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was dry and sore. The medical droid extended a tube with water and he drank gratefully. After a moment, he found his voice. "Is she okay?" he asked. "Is Lyra safe?" Zarathel's expression softened slightly. "She is unharmed thanks to you. My daughter told me everything that happened in the tunnel." Marcus nodded, relieved. "Good, that's all that matters." The commander studied him with intense eyes. "The medical staff says you have been unconscious for 3 days. You suffered a broken nose, cracked ribs, internal bleeding, and severe bruising. Yet when I ask why you risked your life for a child you had never met, you only care if she is safe." "She was scared and alone," Marcus said simply. "Someone had to help her." Zarathl was quiet for a long moment. She had fought in dozens of battles and commanded thousands of warriors. She understood courage in combat and loyalty to one's unit. But this human's actions were something different. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked. Marcus looked confused. "I helped a kid. Anyone would have done the same thing." "No," Zarathl said firmly. "Most beings would have walked away. Even many of my own warriors might have hesitated to face 3 armed Vorthax alone. But you did not hesitate. You placed yourself between danger and an innocent child, knowing you would likely die." The commander began pacing beside his bed, her hands clasped behind her back. "In Zephyrian culture, we have an ancient tradition called Keth Morin." "It means sacred guardianship. When someone willingly sacrifices themselves to protect a child not of their blood or species, it creates a bond of honor that cannot be broken. Marcus still looked confused. I don't understand. By your actions you have become Lyra's Kethmaran guardian, Zarathl explained. It is a title of great respect among my people. It means you are considered part of our family, with all the rights and responsibilities that brings. I just did what was right, Marcus protested weakly. Zarathl stopped pacing and looked at him directly. That is exactly why you are worthy of the title. She pulled a chair close to his bed and sat down. For the first time, she seemed less like a commanding officer and more like a concerned mother. The Vorax who attacked you were part of a criminal organization, she said. They kidnapped Lyra while she was visiting the station with her study group. They planned to use her to force me to reveal military secrets. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. They were going to hurt her to get to you. Yes. And they would have succeeded if not for your intervention. Zarathel's voice became softer. I have spent my entire adult life protecting my people and my daughter. I have commanded fleets and won battles against impossible odds. But I could not save her from those tunnels. You did what I could not. The weight of her words hung in the air. Marcus could see the pain in her eyes. The fear of a mother who had almost lost her child. Have you caught them? Marcus asked. Station security arrested 2 of them before they could leave. The 3rd escaped, but we will find him. Zarathel's expression hardened. They will face justice for what they did to you and my daughter. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his bed. I don't need justice. I just need to know Lyra is safe. Once again, the commander seemed surprised by his response. In her culture, honor demanded that wrongs be repaid in blood. But this human cared only for the child's well-being. The medical bay doors opened and Lyra ran inside. She had been waiting outside for hours, begging the doctors to let her see Marcus. When she saw he was awake, her face lit up with joy. Marcus, she cried, rushing to his bedside. You're okay? Zarathl stood up quickly. Lyra, be careful. He is still injured. But Marcus was smiling for the first time since waking up. Hey there, kid. How are you feeling? I'm fine because of you, Lyra said seriously. She climbed onto the chair her mother had vacated. Mama told me what you did. She says you are my Kethmaran guardian now. I don't really know what that means, Marcus admitted. Lyra took his hand gently, being careful not to hurt his bandaged fingers. It means you are family now. It means you will always be special to us. Marcus looked from the child to her mother. Zarathl was watching their interaction with an expression he could not read. There was pride in her eyes, but also something else, something that made her seem less like the stern military commander and more like a woman. The medical staff says you will need several more days to recover, Zarathl said. I have arranged for private security to guard this room. The Vorax organization may try to finish what they started. That's not necessary, Marcus protested. It is necessary, the commander said firmly. You are under my protection now. That is not a request. Marcus started to argue, but Lyra squeezed his hand. Please stay safe, Marcus, the little girl said. I need my guardian to get better. Looking into those innocent violet eyes, Marcus found he could not refuse. Okay, kid. I'll be careful. Zarathl nodded approvingly. Good. I will return tomorrow to check on your progress. As she turned to leave, Marcus called out to her. Commander? Thank you. For everything. She paused at the door and looked back at him. I should be thanking you, Marcus Chen. You gave me back what matters most in the universe. After they left, Marcus lay back against his pillows and stared at the ceiling. 3 days ago, he had been a simple cargo worker with no family and few friends. Now he was apparently part of some alien tradition he did not understand. But when he remembered Lyra's smile and the relief in her mother's eyes, he decided that maybe being a guardian would not be such a bad thing after all. 2 weeks later, Marcus was back at work in the cargo bay. His ribs still ached when he lifted heavy containers, and his nose would probably never look quite the same. But the doctors had cleared him for light duty, and he was grateful to have something to do. What he was not prepared for was how much his life had changed. Word of what happened in the tunnels had spread throughout the station. Other workers looked at him differently now. Some stared openly, whispering among themselves. Others nodded respectfully when they passed him in the corridors. A few even asked for his autograph. Marcus hated the attention. He just wanted to do his job and be left alone. But everywhere he went, people wanted to talk about how he had faced 3 armed Vorthax to save an alien child. "I heard they broke every bone in your body," said Peters, a cargo worker from the night shift. "But you kept fighting anyway." "It wasn't like that," Marcus protested. "I just stood there and took it." "Any idiot can do that." "Not any idiot would do it for someone else's kid," Peters replied. "Especially not an alien kid." Marcus did not know how to respond to that. To him, it had not mattered that Lyra was Zephyrian. She was a scared child who needed help. The fact that other people saw it differently made him uncomfortable. The real surprise came during his lunch break. Marcus was eating alone in the cafeteria when Commander Zarathl walked in. Every conversation in the room stopped. The tall Zephyrian commander rarely visited the civilian areas of the station. She approached his table with confident steps, her military boots clicking on the metal floor. Behind her walked little Lyra, wearing a simple blue dress that matched her skin tone. "Marcus," Lyra called out happily, running ahead of her mother. Marcus stood up quickly, nearly knocking over his chair. "Commander Lyra, what are you doing here?" "We came to visit," Zarathl said simply. Lyra insisted. The little girl climbed onto the chair across from Marcus. "Mama says we should check on you regularly." "It is part of Zephyrian tradition." Marcus looked around the cafeteria. Every alien and human in the room was staring at them. He had never felt so self-conscious in his life. "Maybe we could talk somewhere more private," he suggested. Zarathl followed his gaze and seemed to notice the attention for the first time. "Of course. Is there somewhere we can speak without an audience?" Marcus led them to a small break room that was usually empty during lunch hour. Zarathl looked around at the simple furniture and food dispensers with curiosity. "So this is where station workers relax," she observed. "It's not much," Marcus said, feeling embarrassed by the modest surroundings. "It is honest work," Zarathl replied. "There is honor in that." Lyra had already made herself comfortable on one of the couches. "Marcus, will you tell me about Earth? Mama says that's where humans come from." Marcus sat down beside her, grateful for the change of subject. "What would you like to know?" "Everything," Lyra said excitedly. "Are there really animals that live in water but breathe air? And plants that are taller than buildings?" For the next hour, Marcus found himself describing whales and redwood trees to an eager alien child. Lyra asked dozens of questions, fascinated by Earth's biodiversity. Zarathl listened quietly, occasionally asking questions of her own. "Your world sounds very different from ours," the commander said. "Zephyria has much less water and our forests are smaller." "Maybe I could visit Earth someday," Lyra said hopefully. "Maybe you could," Marcus agreed, though he had no idea how such a thing would work. As they prepared to leave, Zarathl lingered by the door. "Marcus, may I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you have family? A mate or children of your own?" Marcus felt a familiar pain in his chest. "No. My parents died when I was young, and my sister—" He paused, the words still difficult after all these years. "She died in a transport accident 5 years ago. It's just me now." Zarathel's expression softened with understanding. "I am sorry for your loss. That explains much about your actions." "What do you mean?" "You protected Lyra with the desperation of someone who has lost a child before. Your sister, you could not save her, but you could save my daughter." Marcus had never thought about it that way, but he realized she was right. Sarah had been only 16 when the transport ship lost power and crashed into an asteroid. He had been on a different ship, unable to help, unable to save her. "Maybe," he admitted quietly. After they left, Marcus tried to return to his normal routine, but the visits continued. Every few days, Zarathl and Lyra would appear at the station. Sometimes they brought him small gifts from Zephyrian culture, foods to try or books to read. Other times they simply talked. Marcus began to look forward to these visits more than he cared to admit. Lyra's enthusiasm was infectious, and her mother's intelligent conversation was unlike anything he had experienced. Zarathl asked thoughtful questions about human culture and philosophy, genuinely interested in his answers. The other species on the station watched these interactions with fascination. Zephyrians were known for their pride and military discipline. They rarely formed close relationships with other species, Yet here was one of their highest-ranking commanders regularly visiting a human cargo worker. "I don't get it," said Vex, a Trilaxian trader who worked near the cargo bay. "Zephyrians think they're better than everyone else. Why is she spending so much time with you?" "I saved her daughter," Marcus explained for the 100th time. "Lots of people have saved lots of kids," Vex replied. "That doesn't usually lead to adoption into alien families." Marcus did not have a good answer for that. He was beginning to realize that his relationship with Zarathl and Lyra was unusual, even by galactic standards. The situation became more complicated during a station emergency. A malfunction in the reactor core triggered evacuation alarms throughout New Geneva Station. While most people rushed toward the escape pods, Marcus ran toward the reactor level. The malfunction had trapped several maintenance workers in a section that was rapidly filling with radiation. Station personnel were trying to reach them, but the levels were too dangerous for most species to survive. Marcus volunteered to go in. Humans had better radiation tolerance than most aliens, though it was still extremely dangerous. He wore a protective suit and carried emergency oxygen for the trapped workers. He found 3 aliens unconscious near the reactor core, 2 Andorians and a Centauri. The radiation levels were so high that his suit's alarms were screaming constantly, but Marcus managed to drag all 3 to safety before the containment field was restored. When Zarathl heard about the incident, she arrived at the medical bay while Marcus was being treated for radiation exposure. Her usual composure cracked when she saw him on the examination table. "Why?" she demanded. "Why do you keep risking your life for others?" Marcus looked up at her, surprised by the emotion in her voice. "Because someone had to help them. And I was the best choice for the job." "You could have died," she said, her voice quieter but more intense. "But I didn't. And 3 people are alive because of it." Zarathl stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room, including Marcus. She placed her hand gently on his forehead in what he later learned was a Zephyrian gesture of deep respect and affection. "You are unlike any being I have ever known." "Marcus Chen," she said softly. As she walked away, Marcus realized that something had changed between them. The way she looked at him, the way she spoke his name, it was different now. More personal. He just was not sure what it meant, or what he was supposed to do about it. But one thing was becoming clear. His simple act of protecting a child had started something much bigger than he had ever imagined. And he was beginning to suspect that his life would never be the same again. Marcus was fixing a loading crane when Lyra found him in the cargo bay. She was wearing formal Zephyrian robes instead of her usual simple clothes, and her expression was more serious than he had ever seen. "Marcus," she said carefully, "Mama wants to talk to you about something important. Is everything okay?" Marcus asked, setting down his tools. "Yes and no," Lyra replied, which was not very helpful. Commander Zarathl appeared a moment later, also dressed in formal attire. Her military uniform had been replaced with flowing blue and silver robes that seemed to shimmer in the cargo bay's lights. She looked nervous, which was strange for someone who commanded entire fleets. "Marcus, may we speak privately?" she asked. They found an empty conference room in the administrative section. Zarathl paced for several minutes while Lyra sat quietly in a chair. Marcus waited, growing more confused by the moment. "There is something I must tell you about Zephyrian culture," Zarathl finally said. "About the bond you created when you protected Lyra." "Okay," Marcus said slowly. "The Kethmoran guardianship is only the first step in an ancient tradition. When someone proves themselves worthy through repeated acts of selfless courage, they may be invited to join the family permanently through a ceremony called Shallon. Marcus felt his heart skip. "Join the family how?" Zarathl stopped pacing and looked directly at him. "As my life partner. As Lyra's father. As a full member of our clan." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. "You're asking me to marry you?" he said weakly. "It is more complex than human marriage," Zarathl explained. "Shallon is a bonding of souls, minds, and destinies. It is considered sacred among my people and cannot be broken once completed." Marcus looked at Lyra, who was watching him with hopeful eyes. "What do you think about this, kid?" "I want you to be my papa guardian forever," Lyra said simply. "Mama has been sad and alone for too long. You make her happy. I make her happy," Marcus asked, surprised. Zarathel's blue skin darkened slightly. which Marcus had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of blushing. Lyra speaks the truth. Your presence brings me peace, joy, emotions I have not felt since her father died in battle 8 years ago. Marcus felt overwhelmed. He had grown fond of both Zarathl and Lyra, but he had never imagined this possibility. I don't know anything about being a husband or father, especially to aliens. You already protect us, Zarathl said. You care for our well-being. You bring laughter to our home. What more could a family need? Before Marcus could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed and the intercom crackled to life. All personnel to emergency stations. We have hostile ships approaching. This is not a drill. Marcus stood up immediately. I need to get to the cargo bay and help secure the equipment. No, Zarathl said firmly. You need to get to safety. My security team will escort you to the protected areas. I'm not hiding while other people are in danger, Marcus protested. 2 Zephyrian guards appeared at the conference room door. They were tall and imposing, wearing combat armor and carrying energy weapons. Commander, one of them said, we have orders to protect the human at all costs. Marcus looked between Zarathl and the guards. You assigned bodyguards to me? The Vorthak crime syndicate has put a price on your head, Zarathl explained. They blame you for the capture of their operatives. I will not risk losing you. The station shook as weapons fire struck the outer hull. Through the conference room's windows, Marcus could see dark ships attacking the station's defenses. Those are Vorthak vessels, one of the guards reported. A full assault squadron. Zarathel's expression hardened into the mask of a military commander. They have come for revenge. Guard Marcus and Lyra. I must coordinate the defense. Wait, Marcus said. Where are you going? To my ship. The Zephyrian cruiser Starfire is docked at Base 7. I need to take command of the battle. Marcus grabbed her arm gently. Be careful. For a moment her commander's mask slipped and he saw the woman beneath. I will return to you, she promised. The battle raged for hours. Marcus and Lyra were taken to a secure bunker deep in the station's core, along with other civilians and non-essential personnel. The guards stood watch while explosions shook the walls around them. Lyra pressed close to Marcus's side, trying to be brave but clearly frightened. What if something happens to Mama? Your mother is the toughest person I've ever met, Marcus said, wrapping an arm around the little girl. She'll be okay, but privately Marcus was terrified. The thought of losing Zarathl made him realize how much she had come to mean to him. Somewhere along the way, without him noticing, he had fallen in love with the proud Zephyrian commander. The attack came suddenly. Vorthak boarding parties breached the station's hull and began fighting their way toward the civilian shelters. Station security and Zephyrian Marines battled them in the corridors, but some of the attackers broke through. An explosion blew open the bunker's main door. 3 Vorthak soldiers stormed inside, their weapons charged and ready. Marcus recognized one of them. The largest alien from the maintenance tunnels, the one who had escaped arrest. There he is, the Vorthak snarled, pointing at Marcus, the human who dishonored us. The Zephyrian guards moved to intercept, but the Vorthaks were ready for them. Energy weapons fired and 2 guards fell. The 3rd guard managed to wound 1 attacker before being overwhelmed. Marcus pushed Lyra behind an overturned table and faced the remaining Vorthaks. He had no weapons and no armor, but he would not let them hurt the child again. This ends now, human, the lead Vorthak said. You cost us valuable operatives and made us look weak. We will make you pay. The only thing you'll get from me is another beating, Marcus replied, moving to block their path to Lyra. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Marcus was still recovering from his previous injuries, and the Vorthaks were armed with shock batons. But he refused to go down, taking hit after hit while protecting Lyra. Just when Marcus thought he could not take any more, the bunker's emergency door exploded inward. Zarathl stormed through the breach, her combat armor smoking from battle damage. Her eyes blazed with fury when she saw Marcus bleeding on the floor. The Vorthaks turned to face this new threat, but they had made a fatal mistake. They had hurt someone under Zarathel's protection, and now they faced the full wrath of a Zephyrian warrior. The battle was over in seconds. Zarathl moved with deadly precision, her weapons finding their targets with lethal accuracy. When the smoke cleared, all 3 Vorthaks lay dead on the bunker floor. Zarathl rushed to Marcus's side, her hands shaking as she checked his injuries. Are you hurt? Can you move? I'm okay, Marcus said, though he was clearly not okay. Is Lyra safe? The little girl ran out from behind the table and threw her arms around both of them. You saved us again, Marcus. Both of you saved us. Zarathl helped Marcus to his feet, supporting his weight. The battle is over. We won, but barely. If you had not been here to protect Lyra while I was fighting. She did not finish the sentence, but Marcus understood. The attack had been carefully planned to separate them and leave Lyra vulnerable. Later in the medical bay, Zarathl sat beside Marcus's bed while doctors treated his latest injuries. Lyra had fallen asleep in a chair nearby, exhausted by the day's events. I nearly lost both of you today, Zarathl said quietly. The thought terrified me more than any battle I have ever fought. Marcus reached out and took her hand. But you didn't lose us. We're here and we're safe, because of you, she said. Again, you risked everything to protect my daughter. To protect our family. The word "our" hung in the air between them. Marcus realized that somewhere during the chaos and danger, a decision had been made in his heart. About that ceremony you mentioned, he said. The Shalmiran bonding. Zarathl looked at him with hope and uncertainty. What about it? When do we start? Marcus asked with a smile. Relief and joy flooded Zarathel's face. She leaned down and pressed her forehead against his, the Zephyrian gesture of deep affection he had learned to recognize. As soon as you are well enough to stand, she whispered. In her chair, Lyra smiled in her sleep, somehow knowing that her family was finally complete. The Shalmiran ceremony was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The main docking bay of New Geneva Station had been transformed into a sacred space, decorated with flowing blue and silver banners that represented the joining of two souls. Hundreds of beings had gathered to witness the event. Zephyrian officers in dress uniforms stood alongside human station workers and alien traders. Even the station's administrator had come to watch the historic bonding between species. Marcus stood at the center of it all, wearing traditional Zephyrian robes that Zarathl had given him. The blue and silver fabric felt strange against his skin, but he wore it proudly. Beside him, Lyra held a small ceremonial crystal that would seal the bond once the words were spoken. Zarathl entered the bay to the sound of Zephyrian horns. She moved with the grace of a warrior and the dignity of a commander, but Marcus could see the emotion in her violet eyes. Her formal robes were more elaborate than his, marked with symbols that told the story of her family line and military achievements. An elderly Zephyrian priest began the ceremony with ancient words in their native language. Marcus did not understand most of it, but Lyra had taught him the responses he needed to give. The ritual spoke of honor, protection, and the sacred duty of family. Marcus Chen of Earth, the priest said, switching to standard language so all could understand. Do you accept the bond of Shalmiran? Do you swear to protect this family with your life? To share their joys and sorrows, to stand with them against all dangers? I do, Marcus said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent bay. Zarathl of House Morvek, the priest continued. Do you accept this human as your bonded partner? Do you swear to honor his courage, to share your strength with his, to make him part of your blood and clan? I do, Zarathl replied, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. Lyra stepped forward with the crystal, which had begun glowing with inner light. I give this blessing to my new Papa Guardian, she said in perfect ceremonial Zephyrian. May our family be strong forever. She placed the crystal in Marcus's hands, and he felt a warm energy flow through his body. According to Zephyrian belief, the crystal would now carry a piece of his life force, binding him permanently to Zarathl and Lyra. The priest spoke the final words of bonding, and the assembled crowd erupted in cheers. Zephyrian warriors saluted with raised weapons while humans applauded enthusiastically. It was a celebration that crossed all species lines, but the ceremony was interrupted by urgent alarms. Emergency lights flashed and the station's defense systems activated. Through the bay's large windows, everyone could see a massive Vorthak battleship approaching. All civilians to emergency stations, came the announcement. Military personnel report to battle positions immediately. Chaos erupted as people scattered toward safety. But Marcus noticed that many of the Zephyrian officers were looking to Zarathl for orders, even though they were not technically under her command. Commander, one of them said, what are your orders? Zarathl looked at the approaching battleship and then at Marcus and Lyra. Her wedding ceremony had just been interrupted by the same enemies who had threatened her family before. Take defensive positions, she commanded. Protect the station at all costs. But Marcus had a different idea. He had been thinking about the Vorthak attacks for weeks, and he had noticed a pattern. They always targeted places where Zarathl was not present, trying to separate her from the people she wanted to protect. They're not here for the station, Marcus said suddenly. They're here for us, for our family. Zarathl looked at him with sharp intelligence. Explain. Every attack has been designed to hurt you personally, Marcus said. First they took Lyra, then they attacked during the battle when you were away from us. Now they're hitting our bonding ceremony. They want to destroy what matters most to you. So what do you suggest? Zarathl asked. Marcus looked at the battleship and made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. We give them what they want. We make ourselves the target. Absolutely not, Zarathl said immediately. I will not risk your life or Lyra's. You're not risking anything, Marcus explained. Think about it. They keep attacking because they think they can hurt us when we're separated. But together, we're stronger than they expect. Lyra tugged on Marcus's robes. What do you mean, Papa Guardian? Marcus knelt down to her level. I mean, we show them that our family cannot be broken. Not by fear, not by violence, not by anything. Zarathl studied his face, reading the determination there. After a moment, she nodded slowly. What did you have in mind? 20 minutes later, the three of them stood on the station's main communication platform. Marcus had convinced the station administrator to broadcast their message on all frequencies, ensuring that the Vorthak battleship would receive it. This is Commander Zarathl of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet, she said into the communication array. I am speaking to the Vorthak forces currently threatening this station. The response came quickly. We hear you, Zephyrian. Surrender the human and we will spare the station. The human has a name, Zarathl replied coldly. Marcus Chen, my bonded partner and Kethmoran guardian to my daughter. And he will never surrender to cowards who attack children. Marcus stepped forward to the communication array. This is Marcus Chen, you want me? Come and get me. But know this, I'm not alone anymore. I have a family now and we protect each other. Your courage will not save you, human, came the Vorthak reply. We are coming. But something unexpected happened next. Other voices began joining the communication channel. Station security announced they were standing with the family. Human cargo workers volunteered to help defend them. Even alien traders and visitors declared their support. This is Captain Reynolds of the Human Transport Odyssey, came one voice. Any ship that attacks Marcus Chen will answer to us. Trilaxian Trade Guild vessel Prophet's Edge reporting, came another. We stand ready to defend the station. Within minutes, dozens of ships were announcing their intention to protect Marcus, Zarathl, and Lyra. The simple act of one human protecting an alien child had inspired beings from across the galaxy. The Vorthak commander seemed stunned by this response. You would all risk your lives for one human? He risked his life for one of us, came a reply from a Centauri merchant ship. That makes him family to all of us. Faced with an entire fleet of volunteer defenders, the Vorthak battleship retreated. Their plan to isolate and destroy Marcus's family had backfired completely. Instead of making him vulnerable, their attacks had made him a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Later that evening, Marcus and Zarathl stood on the observation deck watching ships depart. Lyra had fallen asleep in Marcus's arms, exhausted by the day's excitement. I never expected this, Zarathl said quietly. When I declared the Shalmiran bonding, I thought I was gaining a partner for myself and a father for Lyra. I did not realize I was creating a galactic symbol. Marcus shifted Lyra's weight gently, being careful not to wake her. I just wanted to protect her. Everything else just happened. That is what makes you special, Marcus Chen, Zarathl said, using his full name with affection. You act from the heart without calculating the consequences. It is a rare gift. She moved closer to him and he could smell the subtle perfume she wore for special occasions. Do you regret it? Bonding with us? Your life will never be simple again. Marcus looked down at Lyra's peaceful face, then at Zarathel's hopeful expression. 3 months ago I was alone. I had no family, no purpose beyond moving cargo from place to place. Now I have a daughter who calls me Papa Guardian, and a partner who makes me want to be better than I am. He shifted Lyra to one arm and took Zarathel's hand with the other. How could I regret finding the two most important people in the universe? Zarathel smiled, and Marcus realized it was the first time he had seen her look completely happy. The two most important people? Absolutely, Marcus said firmly. Lyra is my light and you are my strength. Together we're unstoppable. Even against Vorthak battleships? Zarathel teased. Especially against Vorthak battleships, Marcus replied with a grin. As they walked back toward their new shared quarters, Lyra stirred in Marcus's arms. Papa Guardian? She mumbled sleepily. Yes, sweetheart. Are we really family forever now? Marcus looked at Zarathel, who nodded with absolute certainty. Yes, Lyra. We're family forever. Good, the little girl said, settling back into sleep. I love you both. We love you too, Marcus whispered, and meant it with every fiber of his being. Behind them, the stars shone down on New Geneva Station, where a human cargo worker had become a guardian, a warrior, and finally a father. It was not the life Marcus had planned, but it was exactly the life he had always needed. And in the years to come, when other species spoke of the day humanity proved its worth among the stars, they would tell the story of Marcus Chen, the man who took a beating to protect a child and found a family that would last forever.